No better time to class your supply chain as your partners. Make sure they're informed, help them see what's coming down the track. And number one is to be pragmatic in what your expectations are.
Good morning. The Exhibition News podcast, videocast this week, is talking to Lou Kiwanuka, who is the chairman of ESSA, the body which represents the service side of our industry. Good morning, Lou. Good
morning. How are you, Phil?
I'm not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. Granddaughters, as you know, all over the place. Dear me. Let's go straight in. Look, one thing that's been really striking is we've, over the last 18 months, we've heard lots about the problems for organisers. We've heard lots about the problems for venues. We've actually seen and heard very, very little about ESSA members and the service side of the business and the problems they are facing. I mean, can you talk briefly about 18 months? What has happened? Indeed, there was one point, in fact, where you put in a freedom of information request. You were so troubled by what was going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a few reasons why you haven't heard anything. I think there's a part of the industry that doesn't listen or doesn't look out for the signs that are there. We've certainly been at the EIA table saying that our supply chain is struggling immensely and is in danger of being 100% fragmented and destroyed by the end of this. But we also suffer from being in an industry where we all managed to get away with it in the end. We all managed to pull a show away. And therefore, we're also partly to blame because we sometimes hide our struggles. We don't necessarily want to say to clients that we're unable to fulfill what they expect of us. And so we're kind of caught a bit in this. No one company wants to stand up and say, I'm broken to the rest of the industry. But as a collective, yes, pretty broken. We've got a number of issues that are now accumulating on top of it, both in terms of materials and wood supplies.
Give examples.
So we've got a show running in September. I need to find panels from somewhere. We've already smashed through about 1,000 panels. We need more, and they are now exceedingly hard to come by. Even the pure wood supply to be able to build a panel is now really a real issue. Part of the problem is not just supply, it's just obviously increase in prices. MDF's going up, kind of between 10 and 20% a week sometimes at the moment. So jobs that are priced 6 months ago are no longer financially viable for the supply chain to fulfill at the same prices that they originally quoted.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a huge knock on to exhibitors who booked a stand at a show 2 years ago or 18 months ago, and that's been rolled on, and they're thinking it's going to roll on the same prices. So materials is an issue, labour is a huge issue.
Is that also connected with Brexit?
Brexit, obviously the pandemic, there's a huge number of brilliant carpenters, sparkies that are working in different industries now that have better times, working times, better hours, better days, better salaries, stronger commitments. Most of our supply chain is on an hourly daily rate, whereas industries out there are paying huge sums of money for experienced labour. We're just not strong enough to entice them back. I'm not saying just at ESSA, we as an industry are not proving strong enough to entice them back.
So what does this lead to? I mean, you've said to me on previous occasions that organisers have just left it too late to start getting in touch with suppliers saying, oh, we're running a show in September, or we're running a show in October.
Yeah, so I think organisers need to start having an understanding of the whole supply chain, because the problems that have previously been managed by a company, a kind of main contractor,
Yeah.
we've been able to do so because there's enough fat in the system to make those problems go away as and when they arise. Now we really are in the position whereby the subcontractors that are working with those businesses no longer have huge amounts of loyalty, and it is all about the buck. So over the last 2 to 3 weeks alone, I know of big stands that are due to be built this autumn have just totally lost a segment of their labour. They are not able to do it, and that's as with everything in our industry, it's about who you know and the relationships that you build. But it's also about when the money transacts. And right now, to kind of our clients that we're working with, we're saying that money has to transact, because it's harder for a subcontractor to turn down something when money's in their account. And if you're going against another job project where money hasn't transacted, you're the one that will get the labour.
Do you think this means that there are certain shows which organisers are assuming are going to be running in, let's say, beginning of October, may well end up not running because it's simply not possible to build the shows? Lou, let's cut to the quick. One of our two major suppliers, Freeman's, appears to have ceased to fulfil the role of a core key turnkey supplier to the industry, which has got to cause a considerable number of problems, as we now only have one turnkey supplier left, GES. And at a time when you say already individual organisers are going to have significant problems running events in the next 2 or 3 months, do you think this might lead to organisers simply finding they can't run events?
I think probably our biggest risk is September, because everything's crunched into September. September's even busier than it's ever been before. So even on a strong year, the supply chain would have struggled with a September that looks like it's coming. So, and also, once we've all kind of got back in a groove, we'll see where the land lies and we'll know how to solve the problems that come up. But this September, we are dealing with a supply chain. Even the supply chain don't 100% know where those problems are going to be.
Well, I mean, September's only a week away, isn't it, in effect? So, and we have a couple of very big shows running in September the 5th and at the NEC, for instance. I mean, two enormous shows. What would you say to organisers? I mean, write a check and write it immediately. I can hear that, but what else?
Give foresight. Bring it. No better time to class your supply chain as your partners. Make sure they're informed. Help them see what's coming down the track. And number one is to be pragmatic in what your expectations are. Gone are the times where you can specify that a wall should be like this and 100% beautiful. At the moment, getting the wall there is the priority. how you what it looks like and what color it is and what the graphics look like on it is secondary to the fact that the wall being there is the primary challenge. So I organizer kind of by trade originally. My approach is always risk mitigation. So for me, it's 200 pot plants, 200 sets of tables and chairs, 200 wall panels. I have no idea where they're going to go, but I know I'm going to put them somewhere. Going back to that, how did you get into the industry? Well, I originally worked under your leadership at Blenheim. I got offered.
But how did you get into Blenheim?
Well, thankfully I did. It was just a summer temp job, landed in it and carried on. But one thing that you taught me and under the Blenheim thing, even though our paths never probably crossed, but has cemented into my mind, is that you'd walk into a Blenheim show and you'd know it was a Blenheim show without seeing a logo. It was you were part of an experience. You would walk in and everything about that show had been designed, well thought through, the quality was there, the ambience was there, and you knew it was a Blenheim show without knowing it, without seeing the logo. And that's followed me all the way through my career. Thank you very much.
Interesting. Where were you born? What did your parents do?
Leeds, Yorkshire. And my dad's in IT. So he was one of the original kind of association guys within networks, telecom, back in the day. He knew Graham Howe. Graham called Stevie Stevens at the time and got me this temp job. So yeah, originally Leeds, Yorkshire girl.
Well, Graham is still doing very, very well, of course. Very, very well. Interesting. Let's talk about, you're very, very senior in the EIA, the Event Industry Association. I think you have quite strong views on what the EIA is doing or not doing and what it should do. Just for viewers who don't know, the EIA is the umbrella which encompasses the Venue Association, the EVA, the AEO and ESSA. Yes. But I know you have strong views on this.
Well, I'm currently the chair of the EIA. I guess my first job was to figure out what it was and what it stood for and how it could be of real benefit. And I 100% believe that the benefit of the AEO, ESSA and the AEV sitting around a table together is there. We all have to talk to each other. We are the three legs of the stool, and without one of them, we would all struggle. I think where the EIA has got some work to do, some work we're currently doing, is deciding what relationship we want with government. Do we want a relationship with government that is business and consumer events, business events, or do we want to fly the event flag?
I'm sorry to come back to what has now become a cliche, but when the government is asked about events, they think instantly Glastonbury, and clearly we don't represent Glastonbury. We're never likely to represent Glastonbury. So how does one deal with that? Because in effect, if you use the word events, we are a particular segment of events. And by no means the majority of what a government or any external organisation would understand by the word events.
I think we've got a unique position that's slightly different to a lot of the other events. Most of the other events camp sits firmly under DCMS, and the broadest event, flying the flag, probably does sit under DCMS. However, as business events and trade events where money is being transacted on a very on a business commercial basis, we have this unique opportunity to go via BAYS. And that's where I think that I'm hoping that at some point during my chair of being the EIA or being part of the EIA, I can help us work towards a way where we are doing both things very, very well. I think the one thing that we've really missed a trick on in our industry over the years, we're very good at the traditional UKTI supporting shows overseas, but having government support for UK shows in the UK is something I think we need to up our ante on.
Yeah, I must admit I've been working on that for 30 years. I don't claim to have been at all successful, anything but. OpsNest, talk about OpsNest, which I think was a very interesting development of yours, with a view to how we could actually improve, I suppose, just the quality of the industry and the quality of the people that we can get into it.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in this for about 25 years, and over 25 years, I can't count the number of mistakes that I have made. No one likes to call them mistakes. Everyone likes to call them learning experiences. Yeah. But ultimately, you're kind of learning on the job and operationally, and that's both in the contractor side, the venue side, and the organizer side. If you look at the group of people that actually nuts and bolts put those shows together from all of those three communities, there's no real training. There's no specific training apart from health and safety. And health and safety training is absolutely critical and such an important part of it, but it's not the only part of our job by any means. So pre-pandemic, I'd spent 4 years kind of gathering together a 4-day course for ops execs, because fundamentally my business has been training ops people for about the last 10-15 years, and it's hard going, it's hard work. I liken our job to a jigsaw puzzle. So you've got kind of electrics here and walling here and floral here. They all need to sit together, but it's multi-layered. You start in this industry, you know a little bit about something, and as you get older, you develop those layers of learning.
Yeah.
So that was the intention. Pandemic hit, had to postpone the course, and just flipped it into a community online presence every week throughout the pandemic, and then flipped that into a commercial model in August, which has thankfully been paying some of my bills ever since. So it's all about learning, all about accredited training and professionalizing our industry. And I think this is where I'd like to make a big impact going forward in our industry. It's about professionally leveling up, being something that people within events are proud of, something that there's a badge associated with, which is leads on to why I've become a founding fellow of the Institute of Event Management.
Right. Tell us more.
Okay, so the Institute, it's been a slow burner. It's been originally, it got given its institute name by government a few years ago now, and it's primed. It's right there waiting. Well, not waiting. You know, they're all busy trying to get it all in the right place. First and foremost, it's a body that could represent our entire industry, whatever part of the event sector that you're from. And then the other side of it is it will become an accrediting body. So a bit like the CIPD for the HR kind of thing. That's what we're going for.
And anybody who wants to know about it can just Google Institute of Event Management, presumably.
Yeah, that's correct. We're on LinkedIn, or send me a DM. I can fill you in on the details and put you in touch with the right people. But I think it's a unique opportunity at the moment and could be the answer to some of our.
It brings up an interesting point. I mean, I have spent and still do spend quite a lot of my time in the publishing world. And if you go through other media forms, I mean, they all have organisations like this, and organisations which are reasonably well known and are certainly known to all of the people within the industry. Why has the event industry, if we can call ourselves that, never actually developed? After all, the event industry is pretty successful. It's got some extremely large, extremely successful companies within it.
Yeah, I think we can see why when we look at why the EIA doesn't want to be associated with, Glastonbury or bar mitzvahs and funerals and weddings.
I mean, interesting. I mean, it's a subject that's been alive, for a very, very long time. I mean, this sense that nobody, when they look at their newborn granddaughter, in my case, says, I desperately want them to become an event organizer. I mean, they might say they want to become a train driver or an astronaut or who knows what else. But and the way that people drop into the industry in the way that you did is absolutely the norm. Again, you very, very really talk to somebody who said, yes, I did this and I went to university and I really wanted to get into this industry and therefore I did X, Y, and Z, which makes us a very unusual part of the commercial world, doesn't it?
It does, but there are more and more people that do want to get into events. There are event management courses throughout the country. And again, we are not staking our claim there at all. People are coming out of event management degrees not knowing what an exhibition looks like. I interviewed an intern not long ago. She couldn't even say the word. Needless to say, she didn't make it to the final list.
But why not? Why not?
But I think a greater amount of work needs to be done about embedding our part of the events industry in at that level.
Yeah. Okay. And as part of your role as EIA chairman, you're going to be pushing the Institute of Event Management and to try and get awareness of it and get the other parts of the EIA to actually sign on, if you like, in the broadest sense, or at least be aware, at least talk about it.
So at the moment, I have to sit my hats firmly on different hooks. So the two aren't connected in any way, shape or form currently.
Okay, but that doesn't mean you can't talk about it and you can't promote the idea and Okay, lovely.
So the essence of my belief, so the Institute of Event Management to me is a potential mechanism and vehicle to work towards something that I firmly believe, which is that we don't have to choose between being part of the broadest events industry and being great advocates and managers of the exhibitions industry. We can be both. We just haven't found the mechanism yet to make that work properly.
Speaking as chair of the EIA, where do you think we're going to be in a year's time?
Well, I think we're in for a rocky ride between now and then. I hope in a year's time things will be rebalanced. I hope that we still have a supply chain that is finding some positive ways forward with the partners that they're working with. It's going to be a tough year though.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Really tough.
Let's talk again in a year's time.
Yes.
And see how accurate your predictions are. Thanks very much, Kiwanuka, and have a good day. And good luck with the Institute of Event Management.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.